past wrongdoings from God and from other people. To make tonight's Slichot service, as well as this entire season, this entire high holiday season, as meaningful as possible, I wanted tonight to provide you with some questions to consider and suggested self-reflection exercises. And I'd suggest that the old-fashioned way, you get a pen or a pencil and jot down whatever questions or exercises that most speak to you this evening. I did send something. Let me put that in the chat. I can find it. Here we go. Something that I will describe what it is, but let me first put it in there in case you don't have it already. Okay. But first, before we do this, I wanted to tell you a story that relates to this. Rabbi Mendel Futterfass, who spent many years in the Gulag in Siberia, he describes in a text that he wrote a great lesson that he learned from a tightrope walker. And the tightrope walker happened to also be imprisoned in the Gulag. And the rabbi asked the tightrope walker, "What is the secret of your art? What skills did you have to master in order to be able to do this, to be a tightrope walker? Was it balance? Is it stamina, concentration?" And the tightrope walker's answer really surprised the rabbi. The secret, said the tightrope walker, is always keeping your destination in focus. You have to keep your eyes on the other end of the rope. Yes, that's hard, but do you know what the hardest part is? And the rabbi ventured a guess. He said, I don't know, when you get to the middle of the rope. And the tightrope walker said, no, it's when you get to the end and make the turn, because for a fraction of a second, you lose sight of your next destination. The tightrope walker goes back and forth, but there's one point at which he has to turn around. And when you don't have the sight of your destination, that's when you're most likely to fall. So that's a mashal of sorts for a nimshal, a parable, the lesson being that life is something like a tightrope. To navigate it successfully, you have to have your destination in focus. You have to know where you're going. When the time comes to take a turn, and for a moment, for a brief moment even, that you cannot see where you're headed, you have to have that destination in your mind's eye, in your imagination, in your kavanah, in your mindfulness. One big question that we can all ask ourselves is the big question: do you have a real focus in your life? And if so, what is it? That's the corollary. If you have difficulty identifying your personal mission in life, identify the steps that you must take to discover your mission, because not everybody knows that offhand. But if that big picture question is way too abstract for you, and it is for many of us, I know, consider the exercise that I just posted in the chat. It's an exercise that a chart that I put together, taken based on some teachings from the book by Rabbi Simon Jacobson entitled 60 Days, A Spiritual Guide to the High Holidays. And it's 60 days because it's actually a journaling. The whole book suggests journaling for every day for 60 days from Rosh Chodesh Elul until the end of Tishrei, so even extending beyond Yom Kippur. So one of the things Rabbi Jacobson suggests is to create a list of concrete items that you want to change in your life in the year to come. And what I did in this chart is lay out on the top 3 different columns, and then along the sides 3 different rows. These are some of the things I pledge to work on or change. So I'd like everyone to take a moment, if you have your pen or your pencil, or you want to type it on the computer if you can multitask or have multiple devices. In each box, try to come up with something. And I'm going to give you just a few minutes tonight, but afterwards, tonight, tomorrow, anytime within the next 30 days or more, from now through the end of Tishrei, if you can fill these in, I would suggest certainly before Rosh Hashanah have at least some of these boxes filled in with goals, concrete goals that you can set for yourself. So the first box would be, Something I might pledge to work on or change between me and God. So there are mitzvot ben adam lamakom, mitzvot that are, we would call them religious in a sense, although all of this is really religious, but they're more like ritual related. And in the first box, something having to do with an attitude. So what would be something that might go in that box? Well, I already pray once a week on Friday nights, but for this coming year, my goal is to have more kavanah, more mindfulness, more intentionality, pay more attention while I'm doing the Amidah. That would be an example of something to put in there. Or it could be to try to concentrate more when I'm saying the Shema. The second box would be some type of concrete thing that you could pledge to work on or change between you and other people. There are mitzvot ben adam lechavero, ranging from giving tzedakah to visiting the sick, to not gossiping about people behind their back. There's many different things that can go in there. They could be do's or don'ts. But then attitude would be something that's not really an action. It'd be something that's more that's a heart and soul dimension of that. So I'm not going to go through all 9 boxes, but basically you have 3 columns here of goals, concrete self-improvement goals for the rest of Elul and for all of Tishrei of 5781, but perhaps even for all of 5781, between you and God, between you and other people, and between you and yourself. And for each of those, there's 3 dimensions. The ABCs is what I call them, the attitudes, behaviors, and cognitions. So an attitude could be something that's more emotional, spiritual, could be a faith, beliefs. Those are probably the hardest things to change, but it could be something like, I'm not going to judge people so harshly. There's a Jewish value entitled Dan L'chav Zchut, giving people the benefit of the doubt. So maybe this is something I'm going to try to do. It's not an action I could do, but it's something that in my heart, in my soul, in my mind, in my belief system, that is something I'm going to try to do differently. So there's attitudes, behaviors. Those are probably the easiest things to define, but not always the easiest things to do. So identify at least one behavior, some ritual behavior, religious behavior between you and God, something that you are not doing now that you will start doing or commit to start doing, to try to start doing. Same thing with between you and other people, between you and yourself, behaviors. Cognitions, the mind, intellectual, learning, again, identify concrete things that you could learn. I want to learn something about Judaism that is something religious, ritual, something I have been davening the Amidah my whole life, but I don't know what any of it means. I'm going to commit to learn at least the first 2 blessings. Or I don't even know how to navigate my way through a prayer book. I'm going to learn the table of contents. I'm going to learn not to know what page numbers things are on, but like the order of things. Those are things about learning, things that you're going to fill your mind with. Between you and other people, between you and yourself also, learning. So I want to learn about the Jewish value of tzedakah, but specifically, if I have X amount of money and I want to distribute it among these very many organizations and people who might be in need, how do I make those decisions? What does Judaism teach about the order of priorities in giving tzedakah? So take a moment to at least fill out a few of the boxes now, but I hope that this will serve as a useful exercise for you and really help you think about this high holiday season in a more meaningful way. But if this may be too much for you, and I don't think it should be too much to fill out a few of the boxes. 9 might be a little challenging, and maybe you don't want to bite off more than you can chew. But I also want to share with you some questions to consider as we approach this new year. And there's a national initiative called 10Q, which provides a way for Jewish people of all backgrounds to slow down and reflect. And if you want, you could even sign up for it, register it, actually put your answers online. They won't be posted publicly, but they're emailed to a secure online vault just after Yom Kippur. And then next year, just before Rosh Hashanah, the answers are sent back to participants so that you can check in to see what your answers were last year at this time. And then the whole process begins again. So I'm going to share with you some of these questions. Question 1. What's a significant experience that has affected you over the past year? How did it affect you? 2, is there something that you wish you had done differently this past year or that you're especially proud of? 3, think about a major milestone that happened with your family this past year. How has this affected you? Okay, and I'm speaking quickly. I'm not intending for you to write every one of these down, only if one catches your ear. But you can actually register for 10Q. I think I have the link. I'm not sure where. I have to look for it, and I'll post it before the end of the night. Think about question 4. Describe an event in the world that has impacted you this year. Well, we all can answer that one. Question 5. Have you had any spiritual experiences this past year? And spiritual can include secular, artistic experiences that felt spiritual to you, cultural experiences. Question 6. Describe one thing you'd like to achieve by this time next year. Why is this important to you? Question 7, how would you like to improve yourself, your life, next year? Is there any advice you received that you could help? And question 8, is there something, a person, a cause, an idea that you want to investigate more fully next year? Question 9, what is a fear that you have and how has it limited you? How do you plan on overcoming it in the year ahead? And question 10, when you get your answers to your 10 questions next year, what do you hope will be different about you? And that question 10 can best be answered by doing the exercise, the chart that I provided earlier. So I'm now going to turn it over to Rabbi Mishkin, and then I have something I wanted to read to you from a book that's not in the textbook, that's not in the Slichot packet. But let me get Rabbi Mishkin.
Am I on? Yeah, hi.
You are on.
Okay, great. I just have a couple of introductory thoughts to share with everyone for this time. I'll be very, very brief. The watchword, I believe, for this time of year is really one of preparation. When we think about it, is the customary manner in which we Jews approach the High Holy Day season. We begin our preparation, of course, during the Hebrew month of Elul, which we are concluding and will conclude on coming Friday. And in a sense, though, the high holiday period could be said to begin as early as the first day of Elul, and really, in a sense, as Rabbi Malik had mentioned in her remarks, it concludes with Yom Kippur. So you're really thinking about a number of a period of time that endures for approximately 40 days, during which, of course, the dominant theme is teshuvah, this idea of reflection, repentance, all the things that we know of from over the years. Now, interestingly enough, this might also remind us that the number 40 is an important number, a significant number in Jewish tradition on many levels. For example, it's the number of years the Israelites wandered the wilderness before entering the promised land. It's the number of days that Moses dwelt on Har Sinai in God's presence as he awaited the revelation. It's even the number of days that we are told in the book of Genesis that God flooded the earth in order to rid the world of Hamas or lawlessness. So in a sense, the number 40 seems to be a very important segment of time. And in our case, it seems to be the operative number of days that our sages wanted us to devote to introspection and self-analysis, when each and every one of us is challenged, in a sense, to reenact that same journey that our ancestors experienced on their journey from exile, as we begin this time of year, hopefully, to redemption. We are all very, very cognizant of the fact that even this year, we have familiar customs, whether it is the sounding daily of the shofar, the custom of the daily recitation of the Psalm 27, where in fact we invoke God as both our light and salvation. This is yet another way in which we are mindful of this time of year. Another familiar custom, of course, is if we're able to, if we live close enough, to visit the graves of loved ones, as we try to continue this sense of continuity, this chain of link from one generation to the next. All of these are enduring themes for the Yamim Noraim. And finally, something that we may or may not recall, it is also very, very customary at this time of year to extend a little bit of tzedakah. And by that, I mean in its most expansive sense. Not only the giving of charity, but also the giving of each other. In other words, the giving of ourselves to each other, and really trying to make a little bit of an extra effort in how we treat one another at this time of year. All of this underscores the point that these 40 days mark for us a very introspective time period, and hopefully we will use it well. Tonight commences yet another time-worn custom. It is the recitation of those prayers in our tradition, which collectively are known as selichot. These are some of the most beautiful prayers composed by some of the greatest ancient and also medieval poets, and it is designed to intensify our anticipation of the arrival of what follows beginning next Friday. What should happen to us as we hear these prayers? Well, the music, God willing, will touch our souls in ways that only music can. And so we are reminded to listen carefully to these glorious liturgical pieces that we will hear repeatedly as we greet the new year together. So to all of my friends at Temple Beth Am, and to all of my friends at our congregation Beth Or, may the coming year be one that we will all celebrate, and we will see a renewed sense of joy, optimism, hope, and peace for all of us in the year ahead. Amen.
Yasher
Back
koach.
to you, Rabbi Malik.
Yes. Okay, I just got a text from my husband, who is supposed to be co-leading Slichot with us, that he is not feeling well, so he may not be able to join us. I gave him a pass and said we could do it without him, so I'm just going to, it's not really a stall, I was going to do part of this anyway, but I'll read the whole selection, and if he comes, he comes. If not, pretend I'm the Cantor. Sorry, it's not going to be as good of an experience, but I do have some things pre-recorded, so we'll be able to put those on. Okay, so I wanted to read a section of a book called, that you may be familiar with. It's called This Is Real and You Are Completely Unprepared. It's by Rabbi Alan Lew, Zichrono Livracha. Rabbi Lew was the rabbi who married me and Adi, and we met him when the three of us worked together. We were the troika at Congregation Beth Shalom in San Francisco many years ago. Rabbi Lew was the spiritual leader, I was the education director, and Adi was the chazan. And by means of introduction to this passage, Rabbi Mishkin has mentioned this, I've mentioned this, a mindful awareness of our circumstances often makes things seem worse and not better. Now, this is an illusion, of course, but it doesn't feel like one, especially when we are in the first throes of discovery. Suddenly aware of problems that we never knew we had, we may generally feel that we are much worse off than we thought we were. We may feel a sense of urgency, even desperation, about our plight. And this urgent, desperate sense is the emotional basis of slichot. In our family, the Malik Wyner family, slichot is associated with some very powerful emotional memories for both me and my husband. My grandmother, Babi Gina, Zichrono Livracha, died during slichot. She wasn't in the building, but Adi was in one part of Brooklyn davening slichot at the East Midwood Jewish Center, and my Babi was in another part of Brooklyn at Maimonides Hospital, and she took her last breaths just as Adi was reciting Shema Kolenu. 2 years earlier, Adi had been leading slichot services at Congregation Beth Shalom in San Francisco with Rabbi Alan Lew, and this is the part of the book that I wanted to share with you, the description of that night. Okay, it's for those of you who have the book, it's page 231 to page 232. Every year, we meet for Yom Kippur in the pall of death, not only because the Yom Kippur liturgy is so full of death, but also because it is quite striking when people die at this time. People die, of course, at all times, but when they die during the high holidays, as we are intoning the solemn liturgy, who will live and who will die, mi yichyeh u'mi yamut, their deaths make more of an impression than usual. But one year, this is still Rabbi Lou speaking, the pall of death was particularly heavy. Many people from my synagogue had died during and just before the holidays, and my Cantor's father lay on the brink of death as well. This Cantor was a very young man, at least he had been when he first came to work with me. This was back in 1997. I used to like to tease him about how young he was. It says in the Shulchan Aruch, the great compendium of Jewish law, that the cantor who leads the congregation in prayer during the high holidays must be at least 30 years old, and that he must be married and have many children and an empty cupboard, so that when he prays on behalf of the congregation, he will pray with a broken heart. And I would tease the cantor because when he first came here to Congregation Beth Shalom, he was still in his 20s and he was single and childless, and he seemed to never have experienced a moment of significant suffering in his entire life. Then, the next year he was married, the year after that he had a child, then he had another child, and then he turned 30. And this particular year at Slichot services on the Saturday night before Rosh Hashanah, his heart broke in two right in the middle of the service. His father was dying then. He would actually die around 25 hours later. The cantor and his father had been extremely close. The cantor had 3 sisters and no brothers, so he and his father had been the only males in the house, and they had a very deep and very tender bond. The cantor had even chosen to follow in his father's career. He was only a part-time cantor. His father had been an eminent mathematician, and the cantor had followed him into his field. At Slichot, the cantor was literally sick with concern for his father. He hadn't slept for some time. His voice was cracking, and he was emotionally distraught. And sitting right behind him, I could feel how deeply the words of the Slichot service were affecting him. But when he got to the Shema Kolenu, hear our voices prayer, it just became too much for him. Shema Kolenu, hear our voice. Please listen to us, Lord our God. Do not cast us out from your presence. Do not take your spirit from us. When our strength has ebbed away, don't abandon us. This is the line that really got to the cantor, I think. His father had been a brilliant mathematician, and in the past few days, he had been losing his mental faculties. The cantor had called him the day before, and he had been speaking gibberish. So when the cantor started chanting that line, when our strength has ebbed, don't abandon us, that's when he lost it. That's when he started sobbing on the bima. And when the service was over, he said to me, you know, every year we say those words without having any idea what they mean. What are we thinking of? What do we think we're doing? As we begin our Slichot service this evening, consider these questions and consider what you need to do to get the most out of the high holidays this year. Now I'm going to ask you to turn to the Slichot.
Rabbi Malik, we're not hearing you.
You muted yourself.
I muted myself on purpose. I actually was not speaking. I just didn't want you to hear all the clicking that I was doing in the background. So I'll unmute myself after I get this in the chat. Okay. Thanks, though. Okay, what I just put in the chat, the doyou10q.com, that's the list of those 10 questions that I read out loud earlier. The link, the Google Drive link, that has the entire service. So we are going to start at the beginning, page 1. I have something pre-recorded for this. It's actually my son, our son, Ariel Wyner, 3 years ago, who actually sang at Slichot here in our building, and he also sang at service that Bonnie Farron, Zichrona Livracha, our sisterhood president, had organized for the sisterhood.
Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imru, Amen. Oseh Shalom Imroma, Uyas Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yisrael.
Did you hear any of that, or was that all muted?
We got a
Rabbi
little bit.
Mishkin?
We got the beginning. It's very nice.
Yeah, just at the beginning.
Also, my father's
You
birthday.
only
It was my tradition,
Give me a
celebration of
second.
his birthday.
Okay, now let's all sing Oseh Shalom together. We'll be muted, but we'll be together in spirit here, because you see what happens when we unmute. It's all cacophony, which can be nice, but also I'm trying to, for whatever reason, I'm going to keep everybody muted for this. But just because you're muted on the computer doesn't mean you shouldn't sing at home. So please do join me. Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imru, imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. You turn now in the packet to page 1A. So this was a later insertion. It's the words to Adon HaSelichot, which means Master of Forgiveness. And I'm going to share with you a video for this as well. It's a video that was put together by Masorti Olami, which is the international movement that's our parallel to the conservative movement in America. So Adon HaSelichot is one of the oldest known piyutim. In Sephardic communities, this piyut is actually at the center of the Slichot service, recited daily besides Shabbat from the second day of Elul until after Yom Kippur. And the piyut has become well known across the Jewish communities of Israel and is sung in most synagogues in Israel with melodies coming from Turkey, Morocco, and Ottoman era Palestine, among others. The poem is written in acrostic form, which you can't see the Hebrew letters here. I just included the transliteration, but the A, B, G, D is Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, etc., and it goes all the way from Aleph through Taf.
Adon HaSelichot, Bochen Lebavot, Golei Amukot, Dover Tzedakot. Hadu beniflaot, Vatik beנחamot, Zocher ברית אבות, חוקר כליות, חטאנו לפניך, רחם עלינו. חטאנו לפניך, רחם עלינו. טוב ומטיב לבריות, יודע כל נסתרות, כובש עוונות, לובש צדקות. חטאנו לפניך, רחם עלינו. חטאנו לפניך, רחם
Okay, we'll continue now on page 2, and Cantor Wyner is here.
Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha Od Yalelu Chasela Ashrei Am Shekachalo Ashrei Am Shadonai Elohim תהילת אדוני ידבר פי ויברך כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד ואנחנו נברך יה מעתה ועד עולם
Page 4.
לכו נרנן על אדוני נריע לצור אישנו נקד מפנה בתודה בזמירות נהריה לו צדק ומשפט מכון כיסך חסד ואמת יקדמו פניך אשר יחדיו נמתיק סוד בבית אלוהים נהלך ברגש אשר לא הים והוא עשהו מייבש את ידיו יצרו אשר בידו נפש כל חי ורוח כל בשר איש הנשמה לך והגוף פולח המלאך הנשמה לך והגוף פולח עשה למען שמך תנוע שמך אדוני עשה למען שמך בעבור כבוד שמך כי אל חנון ברחום שמך למען שמך אדוני וסלחת לעווננו כי רבו.
Continue on page 5. We're going to do this responsively. Rabbi Mishkin is going to lead Haneshama Lach, the soul is yours. And the congregation, I will be playing the part of congregation right now with you. Whatever I say, you can say that with me.
Right, and also might I add, if anybody has the sheets in front of them and would like to participate from our congregation for responsive reading, just send me a chat, okay? And I'll include you as well when we get to it. Otherwise, we're going to just do it this way. The soul is yours, the body is your creation. Have compassion on your handiwork. Rabbi Malik.
The soul is yours, the body is yours. Deal with us according to your nature.
We come before you relying upon who you are.
According to your glorious nature, help us.
You are known as gracious, compassionate God.
Forgive then our transgressions and wrongdoings.
Your way is to be patient with everyone, not only with the righteous. That is a source of praise for you.
For your sake, not ours, God, help us. See how we stand before you, humbled and empty-handed. Please act graciously and charitably toward us. On page 5a are the lyrics and translation to Lema'ancha, which is part of what Cantor Wyner already recited. There's a popular melody that is used for this that I'm going to put on audio. But if you could turn to the text that you have on page 5A.
למענך ולא יקיינו עשה ולא ילנו ראה ימיד עשינו דלים וריקים למענך ולא יקיינו עשה darling,
We're going to continue on page 6.
Adonai tzvot imanu miskav lanu el Yaakov Selah. Adonai tzvot asher Adam boteach bach. Adonai Hashem melech yaneinu beyom koreinu. Selach na לעוונם הזה כגודל חסדך. וכאשר נסעת לעם הזה ממצרים, וירהנה ושם נאמר, ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדברך.
Page 7, the 13 attributes of God, Shalosh Esrei Midot. I'll read the part that's unitalicized, and if you, with Rabbi Mishkin, will read all of the italicized parts. God, you taught us how to recite the 13 attributes of your name. Remember the promise implied in these 13 attributes, which you first revealed to Moshe, as it is written, and God passed before him and called.
Adonai, Adonai, God, merciful and compassionate, patient, abounding in love and faithfulness, assuring love for thousands of generations, forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin, and granting pardon.
Pardon our iniquity and our wrongdoings. Claim us for your own.
Forgive us, our Creator, for we have made mistakes. Pardon us, our Sovereign, for we have transgressed. Because you, Adonai, are kind and forgiving. You act generously to all who call upon you.
We continue on page 8.
Melech Yoshev al kisei rachamim הורית לנו לומר 13 זכור לנו היום ברית 13 כמו שהודעת לעניו מקדם כמו שכתוב וירד ענן מענן ויתעצב עמו שם ויקרא בשם אדוני ויעבור אדוני על פניו ויקרא אדוני אדוני רחום וחנון ערך אפיים ורב חסד ואמת נוצר חסד לאלפים נושא עוון ופשע וחטא ונקה וסלחת על עווננו ולחטאתנו ונחלתנו סלח לנו אבינו כי חטאנו מחל לנו מלכנו כי פשענו כי אתה אדוני טוב וסלח כי אתה אדוני טוב וסלח, ורב חסד לכל קוראיך.
Page 9. Our God and God of our ancestors, forgive and pardon our sins, blot out and disregard our errors, subdue our bad instincts so that we may serve you, bend our stiff-necked stubbornness so that we may turn to you, renew our feelings for observing your mitzvot.
Page 10.
Motzai menucha kidam nucha techila atwas nechamim arom yoshev teila lishmoa el arina ve'el התפילה. את ימינו זוררה לעשות חיל, בצדק נחקור משחטים רועיל. גננה גיזו, גננה גיזו, בזעקם בליל. לשמוע אל הרינה ואל התפילה. דרשנה דורשך בדורשם ברך, ידרש למו משמי מעונך, ולשבת חינונם אל תעלה מאזניך. לשמוע אל הרינה ואל התפילה. זוחלים ברועדים מיין בורך, חלים כמה בקירה מעברת מוסך. תנוף במחניה ורנו בעליך, לשמוע אל הרינה ואל התפילה. יוצר אתה ולא יציר נוצר, כוננת מאז תרב וחלצה ממיצר. לכוננם חינם, לכוננם חינם, מיוצר מנוצר. לשמוע אל הרינה ואל התפילה. מה ממצאו בשייגו לך, נסג וימיוצר מוחה מזבולך. עדיך לכונן חינם באים אליך, לשמוע אל הרינה ואל התפילה. פנינו אל התלאות וילדי ולחטאות, צדק צדקך מפליא פלאות. כשבנה חינונם, כשבנה חינונם, אדוני אלוהים צבאות. לשמוע אל הרינה Eloah. רצה אדיר אדם יעמדם מלילות שיינה ברוצן כקורבן קליל ועולות תרם ניסך עושה גדולות לשמוע הערינה התפילה.
Page 11, Shema Kolenu. Is there anyone who would like to lead this responsive reading? First hand up gets it. Risa, okay, I'm going to meet you.
Okay. Hear our voice, Adonai our God. Be kind, sympathize with us. Willingly and lovingly accept our prayer.
Turn us toward you, Adonai, and we will return to you. Make our days seem fresh as they once were.
Do not cast us away from you. Take not your holy presence away from us.
Do not cast us away as we grow old. Do not desert us as our energy wanes.
Do not abandon us, Adonai our God. Do not distance yourself from us.
Hear our words, Adonai. Consider our innermost thoughts.
Page 12.
Shema Kolenu Adonai Eloheinu Chos merachem aleinu וקבל ברחמים וברצון את בלעדינו.
Ma kolenu.
השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשוב חודש ימינו כקדם. אל תשליכנו מלבניך ורוח קודשך אל תיקח ממנו. אל תשליכנו לעת זקנה, כי כלות כוחנו, אל תעזבנו.
Page 13. Obviously, we cannot do this as a round on Zoom, but if you would just sing with me, or if you want to do a round, no one will know it's a round but you. Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai elecha, v'nashu ונשובה חדש חדש ימינו כקדם השיבנו השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה ונשובה חדש חדש ימינו כקדם. Page 14, the short vidui, the short confession. We confess our wrongdoings from Aleph to Taf, A through Z. Please rise if you can.
Oy, 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 Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, Dibarnu dofi. Ay, 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 Evinu, Veir Shanu, Zadnu, Hamasnu, Tafarnu Sheker. Ay, 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 Yatsnura ki zavnu latsnu maradnu niatsnu sarnu avinu pashanu sararnu kishinu oireif ay 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 di di dai 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 Roshanu Shichadnu Tiavnu Tainu Titanu.
Now on page 15, we will recite collectively the Ashamnu, the Vidui in English. We abuse, we betray, we are cruel, we destroy, we embitter, we falsify, we gossip, we hate, we insult, we jeer, we kill, we lie, we mock, we neglect, we oppress, we pervert, we quarrel, we rebel, we steal, we transgress, we are unkind, we are violent, we are wicked, we are extremist in our views, we yearn to do evil, we are zealous for bad causes.
Page 16, Al-Chet, an English version. We have committed wrongdoings against other people and against you, unwillingly and willingly.
We have committed wrongdoing against other people and against you by hardening our hearts.
We have transgressed against you by hurting others with nasty looks and words.
And we have transgressed against you in our innermost thoughts.
We have sinned against you by scorning our teachers.
And we have sinned against you by being disrespectful to those who care about us.
We have been guilty of instigating conflict.
And we have been guilty of baseless hatred.
We have missed the mark by being thoughtless and selfish.
And we have missed the mark by putting our individual needs ahead of the needs of the community at large.
We have committed wrongdoings by giving into our evil inclinations.
And we have committed wrongdoings by speaking badly of others.
We have transgressed against you in everyday conversation.
And we have transgressed against you by rashly judging others.
We have sinned against you by being angry and impatient.
And we have sinned against you by conspiring against those who are different from us.
We have been guilty of succumbing to peer pressure.
And we have been guilty of being destructive rather than constructive.
We have missed the mark by being negative and cynical.
And we have missed the mark by refusing to grow as Jews and as human beings.
Page 17.
And let's do them alternatively, Rabbi Malik. For the mitzvah we perform by asking those whom we have hurt for forgiveness.
For the mitzvah we performed by being compassionate and forgiving of those who have hurt us with their words and their actions.
For the mitzvah we perform by accepting responsibility for the wrong we've committed and by not blaming our bad behavior on somebody else.
For the mitzvah we performed by admitting we were wrong.
For the mitzvah we perform by giving tzedakah cheerfully.
For the mitzvah we performed by helping someone to find work.
For the mitzvah we perform by teaching our children Torah.
For the mitzvah we perform by studying Torah ourselves.
For the mitzvah we perform by visiting a person who is ill and offering emotional support to her and to her family.
For the mitzvah we performed when we heard an ambulance siren and offered a prayer to God on behalf of the injured person inside.
For the mitzvah we perform by interacting with non-Jewish people in a welcoming, respectful manner that brings credit to the Jewish people and the sanctification of God's name.
For the mitzvah we performed by celebrating Shabbat and the Jewish holidays with Kiddush, Challah, and a festive meal with our family and friends.
For the mitzvah we perform by blessing our children on Shabbat and on the Jewish holidays.
For the mitzvah we performed by coming to Minyan and enabling someone to say Mourner's Kaddish.
For the mitzvah we perform by staying in close communication with our elderly parents.
For the mitzvah we perform by engaging in acts of social justice and for standing up against injustice when we saw another person being mistreated.
For the mitzvah we perform by stopping our child from teasing or humiliating another child.
For the mitzvah we perform by reserving our highest praise of our children for when they have performed deeds of kindness.
For the mitzvah we performed when we were tempted to do something that would be harmful to others and then refrained from doing so.
For the mitzvah we performed by giving others the benefit of the doubt.
For the mitzvah we perform by performing acts of gemilut chasadim, deeds of loving kindness.
For the mitzvah we perform by welcoming others into our homes, our synagogue, and our community.
For the mitzvah we perform by donating blood and arranging to donate our organs.
For the mitzvah we perform by striving to incorporate more Jewish rituals and religious observances into our lives.
For all these things, God, please remember us and inspire us to do even more mitzvot in the coming year.
Page 19. Please join me in the last two words, the Hu Ya'anenu, which means God will answer us. Mishana li'Avraham Avinu b'Har Moriah, Hu Ya'anenu. Mishana li'Yitzchak b'no kishenekar al gabei hamizbeach, Hu Ya'anenu. Mishana li'Yaakov b'Betel, Hu Ya'anenu. Mishana li'Yosef b'Beit ha'Asurim, Hu Ya'anenu. Mishana l'Avotenu al Yam Suf, hu ya'anenu. Mishana leMoshe b'chorev, hu ya'anenu. Mishana leAharon b'machta, hu ya'anenu. Mishana lePinchas b'kumo mitoch ha'edah, hu ya'anenu. Mishana leYehoshua b'Gilgal, hu ya'anenu. Mishana leShmuel b'Mitzpah, hu ya'anenu. Mishana leDavid u'Shlomo beno b'Yerushalayim, hu ya'anenu. Mishana leEliyahu b'Har HaKarmel, hu ya'anenu. Mishana leElisha b'Yericho, hu ya'anenu. Mishana leYona b'Mei HaDaga, hu ya'anenu. Mishana leChizkiyahu b'chol yo, hu ya'anenu. Mishana leChananya, Mishael ve'Azariah b'toch kivshan ha'esh, hu ya'anenu. Mishana leDaniel b'gov harayot, hu ya'anenu. Mishana leMordechai ve'Esther b'Shushan habira, hu ya'anenu. Mishana leEzra b'Gola, hu ya'anenu. Mishana lechol hatzadikim v'chasidim v'hatimimim v'hayesharim, hu ya'anenu.
Now we'll turn to page 20 for the English translation of Hu Ya'anenu. May the one who answered Sarah pass the time of her youth, Avraham on Mount Moriah, Yitzchak their son bound on the altar, Rivka as her son struggled within her, Yaakov at Beit El, Leah in her loneliness, Rachel desperate for a child, Yosef abandoned in prison, the Hebrew midwives as they stood at the birthing place, Yocheved keeping watch on the banks of the Nile, the Israelites of the Exodus on the shores of the sea, Moshe standing on the slopes of Sinai, Miriam with her well of water, Aharon offering incense to God, the daughters of Zelophehad standing their ground, and all those who are righteous, upright, and decent. O merciful one, you will answer us, won't you?
Page 21. Part of Slichot services includes an excerpt of Tachanun. Some of you may be familiar with this from morning davening or from Mincha. Shomer, Shomer Yisrael, Shemor Sherit Yisrael. Shomer, Shomer Yisrael, Shemor Sherit Yisrael. V'al Yovad Yisrael, V'al Yovad Yisrael, Ha'omerim, Ha'omerim Shema Yisrael. Shomer, Shomer Goy Echad, Shemor Sherit Am Echad. Shomer, Shomer Goy Echad, Shemor Sherit Am Echad. V'al Yovad Goy Echad, V'al Yovad Goy Echad Hamiyachadim. Shimcha Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shomer, Shomer Goy Kadosh, Shemor Sherit Am Kadosh. Shomer, Shomer Goy Kadosh, Shemor Sherit Am Kadosh. V'al Yovad Goy Kadosh, V'al Yovad Goy Kadosh HaMashalashim B'Shalosh Kedushot LeKadosh. Mitratzev Rachamim Yipayes B'Tachronim, Hitratzev Yipayes L'Dorani Ki Ein Ozer. Avinu Malkeinu. I'm going to open up the ark. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu maasim. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed, v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu maasim. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed, v'hoshienu. We'll conclude with Yigdal, which is the last page. It doesn't have a page number on it. It should be page 23. Yigdal Elohim Chai v'yishtabach, Nimtza v'yenet el metziuto, Echad v'yen yachid keyichudo, Nela v'gam ein sof le'achduto, Ein lo demut haguf yeino guf, Lo naroch elav kedushato, Kadmon lechol davar asher nivra, Rishon v'en reshit le'reshito, Hino Adon olam lechol notzar, Yoreh gedulato u'malchuto, Shefa nevuato netano el anshe segulato v'tifarto. Lo kam beYisrael kemo she'od, Navi u'mabit et emunato, Torah demet natan le'amoel, Aya nevio neman beito. Lo yachal Yifa'el v'lo yamhir dato, le'olamim lezulato, Tofeh v'yadea sitareinu, Mabit lesof davar bekadmato, Gomel ish chesed Kimi falo, Noten lerasha kirishato, Yishlach leketz yamin meshichenu, Liftot mechake ketz Yeshuato. Metim Yechayael berov chasto, Baruch Adei Shem Tehilato. Metim Yechayael ברוב חסדו ברוך הדיין שם תהילתו.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל ישראל אמרו אמן. עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל ישראל אמרו אמן. Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Amenu.
Shana Tova to each and every one of you. Thank you. Thank you for having us at Temple Beth Am virtually. You're muted.
Thank you.
There you go. Be well. Take care, everyone. Thank you. Good night, everybody.